To those of us who are joining us online, thank you so much. You've been waiting there patiently with the holding slide. We're just going to be 5 more minutes and we'll get started. So we'll be starting at 4:05. So if you stare at the holding slide again in just a moment, do not fret. But at 4:05 we'll be starting. Thanks. Welcome everybody. If you'd like to take a seat, that would be wonderful. Welcome to everybody who is in the room and those of us who are joining us online for the annual meeting of Wesley Mission. And it's a privilege to welcome all of you to this really significant moment where we reflect on the year that has just passed, the year that finished June 30, 2021, and give thanks for what has been achieved over that year, a year of huge challenges but also enormous opportunities. As we begin, I want to acknowledge the original owners of the land on which we meet this afternoon. That is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I want to pay my respects, our respects, to their elders, past, present and emerging. I also want to acknowledge any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us either in the room or also joining us online as well, and pay our respects to you as well. Today, the meeting will proceed with each item happening pretty much unannounced. And so what I would like to do first of all is the minutes of the previous annual meeting, which happened on the 25th of October 2020. I happen to remember that weekend. That was a weekend Sue and I were driving down from the Gold Coast. But it does feel like a lifetime ago. But those minutes have been distributed, and I simply want to move that they be accepted as a correct record of that meeting. Are we all happy for us to do that? Yep. And any silence I will take as yep as well. So thank you for that. So I would like to just offer a brief reflection, if I may. But before I do that, I want to commend to you the printed annual report that has now been distributed to you, which is on your tables and which I can see many of you leafing through. This is a remarkable document that testifies to some incredible work that has been done and some quite significant milestones that have been achieved over the past 12 months. I want to commend all of those who contributed to that report, the stories that are contained there, the statistics, the information, etc. And I particularly want to thank Amanda Bailey, who was responsible for producing that report and has been for the last number of years. This is a really important document. It's important that we do record these things. It's easy in an organisation like ours, an activist organisation, to keep moving forward, to always be looking to the next thing, but it's important from time to time to stop, to reflect, to record and to celebrate what has been achieved over a period of time. And the annual report does that. So I remember when I read the annual report from last year, as I came into my new role was preparing to enter into my new role as CEO and Superintendent, being simply astonished by the breadth and scope and depth of the work that Wesley Mission does. And it was an invaluable document to me in that transition season coming into the role. So I commend it to you as a document well worth spending some time reading, either the hard copy version you have, or if you go to our website, the online version that's also, the digital version that's also available. But just a brief reflection, if I may. The last year has been a year like no other. I mean, that's the cliche, and it's true. Business as usual, it has not been. And I simply want to offer some reflection under three headings, three words that for me summarise my reflection on my engagement in the year that we are celebrating as we gather for this annual meeting. And those three words are simply this: humbled, grateful, and excited. And let me turn to each of those in turn. First of all, humbled. Coming into this role, and I've shared this story many times, of coming into this role and stepping into an organisation with such a rich and storied history, stepping into our boardroom at that point with the portraits of each of the preceding or the preceding CEOs and superintendents, and recognising that depending on which way you count it, I was number 10 or number 13. We're saying number 13. We're counting the 3 that served during W.G. Taylor's time, recognising the rich history and legacy that I was stepping into. And that history and culture is represented by the different styles and forms of leadership offered by those who've been in my role in the past. For example, W.G. Taylor, when I've read our history, what a remarkable spiritual entrepreneur he was in pioneering what was a very different form of church. We take for granted who we are today. But when W.G. Taylor and York Street Methodist Church pioneered Wesley Mission, a church that had a particular vision, to a word and deed vision, to serve the people of Sydney and New South Wales with the gospel of Jesus Christ, expressed in word, that is proclamation of that gospel, but also in deed in terms of serving the community, that was quite a significant vision that had not been tried in the way and the form that it was other than here at Wesley Mission at that time in Australia, and only in a handful of places across what was then the British Empire. It was pioneering and breaking new ground. Then I think of someone like a Frank Raywood, who, when again you read our history, was a remarkable leader, a world-class leader, and quite an incredible preacher who gathered the significant congregational life that we still experience to this day. Alan Walker, known as an Australian prophet and someone who embodied that sharp mind working for justice that we aspire to be today. And I think of my immediate predecessor, who I'll speak about in just a moment, Reverend Keith Garner AM, who over his 15-year tenure saw significant growth, a builder, someone who grew the mission in a significant way. So I'm humbled to step into that story, incredibly humbled with the opportunity that I have. I'm also humbled to serve alongside such an amazing, incredible team. There's the 2,450 staff that make up Wesley Mission, the 4,000 volunteers, our clients and our partners. And the theme that I introduced at the beginning of this year as we step into this new season, as we look to live out our vision, as we seek to pursue our mission, as we look to embody our values, that is courageous commitment, unfailing integrity and Christ-like servanthood, is that I believe in this season particularly that God is calling us to people with soft hearts, sharp minds, open hands, hard feet and open hands. And I'm humbled to be invited into this opportunity, to this season as we step into it. So that's the first word, humbled. The second word that I have is grateful. And I do want to pay particular testimony and honour the legacy of Reverend Keith Garner AM and make a personal reflection. When Sue and I did drive down on October 26, it was the Monday after your annual meeting. Keith and Carol greeted us at the Roseville Manse, and their hospitality towards us, their welcome of us as we transitioned into the role was exemplary, and we are forever grateful for their hospitality and for their friendship. But more particularly, when you read this annual report, in many ways it's the culmination of Keith's season with us. It's a remarkable season that saw remarkable growth. It marks the end of a 5-year strategic planning process where we had a particular growth target, and over the period of Keith's leadership here at Wesley Mission has become not only a larger and more impactful organisation, but also financially healthy and robust. We have a strong foundation for the future, and that is a strong testimony to Keith's leadership and those around him. So I'm grateful for the leadership of Keith Garner. I'm grateful for the resilience of our people and their commitment. I mean, COVID, of course, has impacted our work greatly, and that's reflected in the annual report. But the reality is, whether this has been a season of COVID or not, we always will be facing challenges just because of the nature of our work. And one of the stories from early in our time here at Wesley Mission that embodies that for me was when we were having one of our familiarisation tours, if you like, of some of the sites where we work, and we were travelling with Nigel Lindsay, who leads our Wesley Dalmar team, and we visited the Maitland office and we met with some of our out-of-home care staff. And one of the caseworkers shared with us a story of how she'd been working with a family towards restoration of a couple of kids with their mother, and that had been progressing well and been progressing over a year or so's time. And she shared with us how the previous weekend, we were there, I think it was on a Thursday, the previous weekend there'd been an incident. Mum had found herself incarcerated. The kids, they didn't know where the kids were. And so all of this work towards this moment of restoration, at least for that moment, had been lost. And this caseworker was sharing this story with us. In many ways, a heartbreaking story. But what struck me was the incredible passion, care, and commitment of that caseworker. This wasn't something she simply shrugged off. This mattered. And time again, no matter where I go across the Wesley Mission family, I see people for whom their work matters. And that speaks to me of their commitment and their resilience, and particularly their commitment to make a difference. So I'm thankful for the leadership of Keith Garner. I'm grateful for the leadership of Keith Garner, the resilience of our people, the diligent stewardship that has been exhibited and demonstrated in the report you have before you. I mean, obviously our finances have been, like most organisations, significantly impacted by COVID, but we have seen God provide in various different ways, and enabling us to weather the storm and weather the storm well. Again, enabling us to continue to serve the community on into the future. All of that has been made possible through God's provision and the faithful stewardship of our board, our Finance and Audit Committee, and also our finance team. And I'm very grateful for them. I'm grateful for what has been achieved, and you'll find this, and let me just highlight a couple of things in our community services over this last 12 months. Regional expansion. We see the successful integration of our work in the Clarence Valley, and with that our growing regional footprint. Wesley Mission began as a mission to inner city Sydney. Then it expanded to the greater Sydney Basin. And now we have a regional footprint whereby somewhere between 30 and 40% of our work now happens outside of the Sydney Basin, and that's a growing proportion, and I'm grateful for that, that we see that strengthening and advancing. I'm also grateful for what is a really significant milestone that just got in under the line of June 30, and that was the successful refurbishment of the Edward Eager Lodge, now the Edward Eager Centre. And we are very much looking forward to officially opening that on February the 4th. It will be our third or fourth attempt at officially opening, but we are really looking forward to doing that, God willing. But if you've not been there, can I encourage you? In a moment you'll hear and see some stories about the Edward Eager Centre. It is a remarkable achievement, again, that Keith played a large part in, but is the result of many, many people's work and vision. It was made possible by the generous donors who participated with us, the City of Sydney, and corporate and private donors. But when you walk into the newly refurbished, now Edward Eager Centre, what immediately strikes you is this warm place of welcome and hospitality, and your eyes are immediately lifted to the cross that sits at the back of the building, and up, as your eyes are lifted up, you see the doves, these sculptures that speak of hope and aspiration, and as your eyes are lifted, so I hope and expect is your heart as well. And Rob, in a video you'll see in just a moment, or we'll share just after a video you'll see in just a moment, some of the transformation that's being experienced by residents in that place. I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the growth that's happened over the last 5 years in particular in our revenue and the number of people that we serve. Over 40% in both cases, we've seen our revenue grow over the last 5 years, and the number of people we serve, and I'm grateful for that. Finally, humbled, grateful, excited. I'm excited for the strategic plan that we finalised and which speaks of extending our impact and growing a healthy organisation, the two key strategic directions for the next 12 months. And in recent times, the alignment of that strategic plan for Wesley Community Services with Wesley Congregational Life. With that, came arising out of that strategic plan, our commitment to step up our advocacy work, grounded in subject matter expertise and lived experience, as we seek with other partners to reduce gambling harm across Sydney and New South Wales. And that is a long legacy that we stepped into. Again, reading our history, Sir Alan Walker, when there was debate around introduction of pokies into New South Wales clubs and pubs, was a vociferous voice speaking out against that. Obviously, that was not successful at that time, but that means that we should take up in our own season, in our own way, with our own challenges, that same vision to see gambling harm reduced across our state. In suicide prevention and mental health, and again, we see that subject matter expertise and lived experience that's available to us through the work of Lifeline and Wesley Lifeforce, and homelessness and housing affordability. I'm really excited to see what God will do in and through us as we step into those advocacy priorities over coming years. I'm also excited as we look forward to a season of greater collaboration with governments, local, state and federal, and the commitment that our City Council has made earlier this year, again navigated primarily by my predecessor, Reverend Keith Garner, of committing $3 million to the R.J. Williams development, is a really significant partnership that I celebrate, but looking forward to future collaboration with our Uniting Church family, with the wider church, with the corporate sector and with the community sector. Certainly, Wesley Mission, we are well placed and well regarded within each of those sectors to be able to collaborate, and with those collaborations make a greater impact. And finally, I'm looking forward to the season ahead, Wesley Mission, a movement sustained and empowered by prayer. In May this year, again, building on the heritage of our past, we hosted a week of prayer that brought together our community services and our congregational life. When we look at our history, right back to our inception, Wesley Mission has been grounded in prayer as a movement of prayer. And we're reclaiming that heritage in some ways in this season, in a different way. But my hope and expectation as we move forward, that week of prayer will not be a movement, but will catalyse a movement. That will be known as Wesley Mission, a place of word, deed and prayer. And that as we step into that prayer, we will flow with the Spirit of God. And as the prophet Ezekiel says, wherever the river flows, life flourishes. There's a passage in Galatians, as I finish, a passage in Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10, where the writer, Paul, the Apostle Paul, writes to a church that is enduring significant suffering, opposition, and setbacks. And he says this, "Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time we will reap a harvest, if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people." And I see that resilience that was demonstrated in the early church, demonstrated here in Wesley Mission. We have navigated a season of an extended period of challenging conditions, but by God's grace, in God's strength, we have been able to continue to do good. And that is a very good thing. To God be the glory. Thank you.
Right, are we on this, Stu?
Yes, you are.
Oh, excellent. And
you're very small. We just need to get you up on the larger screen. It's like mini-me there at the moment.
Are we at least able to see the slides?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Oh, well, that's far better. And good afternoon, both those in the auditorium and those watching online. It is an absolute pleasure to present the annual finance report to you this afternoon. As we mentioned elsewhere, the past 12 months of Wesley Mission have been a really interesting and challenging year. During the past 12 months, Wesley Mission has expanded its work. Stu mentioned earlier about the additional work into the Clarence Valley region, where we took on a work that the local council had been performing but wanted to exit from it. We also grew into the intensive therapeutic care, which is looking after some of the most vulnerable people in society. Financially, our revenue grew by just under $15 million, or just over 6%. So did the expenses, but included in the expenses is an estimated $7.6 million that was used to support a wide range of services that were impacted by COVID and the lockdowns over the past year. This was an investment that we chose to make rather than trying to squirrel away. And I think you'd all agree that it was an incredibly important time in the year that's just finished to make that investment into our community services, now as much as any. Stuart mentioned earlier that we've just finished also a 5-year strategic plan. Over that 5 years, income has grown 40%. The objective was for 50%. We grew by 40%, with really the only hiccup being in that very first year. And over the 10-year period, which I often report on, income had grown by just under 100%, 98%. And I think we'd all recognise that's a great, strong continuation of the growth of the work of Wesley Mission. That's been hard fought for, where this income has come from. Most of the increase has been through rendering various services. During the time, there's been a transition from the government to taking away government funded programs to make it a fee-for-service program. And that, along with a number of changes to the activities behind it and the relationships with the clients, is actually quite a significant change in the mix of funding that comes to Wesley Mission. One of the things I often comment on is just the unique nature of Wesley Mission and the diversity of services we provide. Wesley Mission clearly isn't just an aged care provider or just a disability services provider. Rather, we work in a broad range of services across a wide range of people's lives, including, shown on the slide, out-of-home care, community and family work, home care, disability services, residential care, clinical care, and training. And the list just goes on. And I'm grateful to the staff and the volunteers that help with all of those services. Finally, the slide shows the various assets and liabilities of Wesley Mission. During the year, as been mentioned, we've completed the Edward Eager Centre, and hence the reduction in current assets, cash, and the increase in the non-current assets. Wesley Mission remains in a strong position to continue the work that it does and continue to work in the mission fields that God has set before us. Thank you very much for your time, and I think I'm passing on to Rick, aren't we?
Thank you, David. So I'm going to speak briefly for a change. But I just want to highlight a few things that I'm really grateful for in this past year. One is for the resilience and for the agility of our congregations in this time. Our congregations are very diverse, and for them to be able to adjust to the circumstances that we've had over this past couple of years has been quite remarkable. And I'm grateful for our leaders, for our ministers and pastors and lay leaders who have made that possible. I'm also profoundly grateful for our chaplaincy. Our chaplaincy has had a greater impact, I think, in these past couple of years, certainly than any a time in my tenure, and I think probably in any time in Wesley Mission's history and the time that we've had chaplains. And that is owing in large measure to the leadership of Joe Garrett, our chaplaincy coordinator, who has taken some wonderful chaplains and formed them into a wonderful team of chaplains. And the support that they've offered to each other through this as they've lifted up people at the front lines, managers bearing huge responsibilities, has just been extraordinary. And I'm really grateful for Joe's leadership that she's impacted the whole of the mission. I thank God, together with Stu, for the ministry of the Reverend Keith Garner And we were grateful as congregations to be able to thank God for all that God did in and through Keith's ministry and Carol's ministry during his 15-year tenure. And really want to honor that. And I also thank God for the extraordinary impact of our new superintendent, the Reverend Stu Cameron, and for Sue. The impact that they've made in 11 months is unbelievable. And if you encounter staff who are here for the senior staff meeting, I have to say, in 10 years, by far the most joyful senior staff meeting I've ever experienced. There are tears and laughter and a real depth of why we're here. And that is something I'm just really grateful for, the leadership and the vision. That's happening across our congregations, and it's happening across the whole of the mission, a sense of anticipation of what God is up to. Those are things that I wanted to speak to. I'd love to speak to at length. I haven't got time. But I want to give time to one particular moment in the life of Wesley Mission. You may be aware that for the Uniting Church, as with many churches around the world, in the Western world particularly, the narrative is one of decline. There aren't a lot of places in the Uniting Church where you can say, well, we've just added a church of 500. That's not a common story in the Uniting Church, or where we've become a younger church, where we've become a more ethnically diverse church. We've done that together as Wesley Mission, particularly in this year as we've welcomed the Agape Church under the leadership of Stephen Tanoajawa and his wife Susanna, who is very much a partner in ministry. That we've been on a journey with them. It's not been an easy journey. It's been a rich journey. Let me tell you, there are a lot of churches that would love to be tenants here, and we turn them all away. But when I sat down and talked with Stephen 5 years ago, he wanted to be a partner in mission. And we have grown together. We have been changed by the relationship. And so I just want to close by thanking God for that journey that we've been on, and thanking God that now we have fully incorporated Wesley Agape in Indonesian congregation as part of Wesley Mission. And I want to share just a celebration video that is produced by members of Agape, just to show you a sense of what they're able to contribute to the life of our mission.
Agape has been blessed. By God's grace, we have a place that we can call home. A place where we all come and worship God together to feel His anointed presence and miracles through His people. Alongside with Wesley Mission, we have journeyed side by side as a family in Christ. We have grown together, continuing the work of Jesus Christ in word and deed to serve His people in the past 5 years. It all started here. Pastor Stephen Tanuwijaya and his family were part of Wesley International Congregation for more than 10 years and were active in choir, cell group, and Bible study. He was then entrusted to lead the Indonesian fellowship within the Wesley International Congregation. After praying and fasting, Pastor Stephen Tanuwijaya left his secular job in 1998 to follow his calling to serve God in a full-time ministry. With a letter of blessing from then senior minister Dr. Tony Chi, he set to plant an Indonesian church at the Lutheran building located on Valentine Street, Haymarket, Sydney. On the 22nd of May 1998, Pastor Stephen was ordained by Jemaat Kristen Indonesia International, endorsed by the Pacific Southwest Mennonite Conference in America, and he was affiliated with the Churches of Christ in New South Wales in 1999. What started as a small gathering, Agape Indonesian Church has become a home to many who come to receive Christ as their Lord and Savior. Agape is filled with Bible-based teaching, mentoring the young in persevering for Christ, and strengthening all to live a life reflecting the love of God. It is our greatest desire to see our men and women love God with all their heart, their soul, and mind. Agape encouraged them to serve God and His people inside and outside of the church. We give opportunities for our youth to practice and develop their God-gifted talents, to serve in many different areas on Sunday services and other exciting events and activities. Celebrations of all sorts, no matter how big or small, whether it's a retreat or a friendship tour. Pastor Stephen received a word of prophecy when he and his wife were in Jerusalem in 2007. Among others, the prophecy was, "You do not need to buy or build a church. God Himself will provide." In 2015, Agape received a notice the place that we call home was going to be sold, and we celebrated our 17th anniversary for the last time at Valentine Street. We asked God to give us one more year before we had to move out, and God answered our prayer. From a small group that started with no more than 50 people, Agape has grown to a church of over 500 people. By the grace of God, Pastor Stephen met with Pastor Rick Dacey, the Senior Minister of Congregational Life, Wesley Mission, in 2016. Both agreed to enter a 3-year discernment journey with the intention that Agape Church would become a part of Wesley Mission. We held our first Sunday service at Wesley Mission on our 18th anniversary. We are so grateful for where we are now. Truly, God works wonders before us. Our God is the God who provides. We are Agape Wesley Indonesian congregation. Thank God for you. Thank God for Wesley Mission. And thank God we are a family.
Hi, welcome to Wesley Edward Eager Centre. We've been fighting homelessness here for over 40 years now. And over that time, the site has become run down and a little bit tired. The last 12 months, we've been undertaking massive construction works to really fix this place up, get it looking great, and be in an optimal state to help the people that we really want to help. Let's go take a look inside. As we come into the chapel space, the greatest difference between now and its former life is the amount of warmth and light that we've been able to bring into this space. We've done that by being able to knock out that rear wall and replace it with glazing and really replace all the lighting with some nice, soft, warm uplighting. The colour scheme and materials that we've used in the chapel have been sympathetic to both the heritage requirements and also have a timeless quality and look to them. The chapel is a multi-purpose community space where people can relax and meet, have a hot meal, or enjoy a coffee from the cafe. They can join our Sunday service, they can watch movies or sport on the projector, or even a local theatre production being produced on stage. There are a number of artworks and points of interest that we've incorporated into various spaces in the building. From the ethereal wire mesh doves that symbolise hope and peace on their flight towards salvation, to the perforated metal screen at the rear depicting a journey where Wesley Mission will walk alongside you. When you walk through these doors, we want you to feel welcome, to feel at home, and to let the weight of the world slip off your shoulders. Most importantly, we want everyone who walks through these doors to feel at home and uplifted. Now let's go have a look at the kitchen where they prepare the meals. Wesley Edward Eager Centre has a full-size commercial kitchen where we prepare meals for our residents. Sharing a meal together provides another opportunity for connection, care, and to create a sense of community. Now let's go have a look at the mezzanine. Wesley Edward Eager Centre is much more than just an accommodation service. We provide support services and wraparound services like counselling to help people leave homelessness for good. Up here on the mezzanine, we've got staff spaces but also multiple contact opportunities and offices for clients to access support services like the counselling rooms and contact spaces and semi-private areas and congregational spaces. But let's go have a look at one of the accommodation levels now. This is a typical accommodation floor and really where most of the changes have actually been made to the building. The rooms have all been reconfigured to include en-suites and much more common spaces for clients to enjoy and congregate. Here they can enjoy a cup of tea or watch some TV. So independence is one of the traits that we're really trying to encourage here. What we've done is we've created these shared kitchenettes where they can have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or even have a meal on the bench here and sit and chat and congregate. Let's go have a look at one of the rooms. Client rooms are fitted out with beds, built-in wardrobes, safes, desks and tables, and lots of natural light coming in. They all have curtains with shears and blockouts, as well as heating panels, fans for thermal comfort. But the main thing is they all have an ensuite. The en-suites give the opportunity for dignity and comfort. So let's make our way over to the common laundries now. So reiterating the theme of independence, on every client floor there is a shared laundry. The laundries contain both commercially sized washing machines and dryers, which have automatic liquid dispensing. Level 6 is primarily our staff space. Over here we've got a nice modern kitchen for staff to enjoy the amenity and really congregate and have a nice lunch together. And that leads out onto an external terrace. There's seating, benches, some landscaping, and they can also enjoy the light, the sun and the breeze coming through. Over here we've got our hot desks where staff from this site or other sites can use the amenity and the facilities. And that leads us into the meeting room. This meeting space is really a space for staff to congregate, but also to meet with clients if need be. And that opens up onto the client terrace where the clients have a similar amenity to staff where they've got the ability to enjoy the sun and the breeze out on that activated terrace. Even the back of the building communicates how we support our clients, walking alongside them every step of the way as they take their next step out of homelessness and the next. At every stage of this development, we've always considered how can we best help those who step through our doors and the staff that support them. With the investment into the new Wesley Edward Eager Centre, we clearly state that every life matters.
It's a moment that I'd wanted to recapture ever since. That is the day, I guess it was 2012, when we took delivery of 99 seats worth of 1 and 2 seat lounge chairs and started carting them up the Edward Eager lift. And a man who was staying with us squeezed into the lift and asked, "What, are you bringing these upstairs to our lounges?" And we said yes. And he said, "I saw them coming off the truck out the front." And I said to the guy beside me, "Why would they be bringing chairs like that into a place like this for people like us?" The day after the first of our residents moved from our temporary digs into the new Edward Eager Centre, a gentleman in a wheelchair called to me as I walked in that morning, and he asked if I was a manager. He wheeled towards me and I thought he was about to make a complaint. Instead, he turned his head away to hide his tears, and then he looked at me and said, "In 20 years, I never thought I'd step into a place like this, let alone stay in a place like this." And then he took my hand, even though we were meant to social distance, and he said, "Thank you." And with his thank you, I was reassured that he wasn't responding to the demoralising introspection that asks, "What has my life come to?" Rather, he was moved, uplifted, and I'd like to say inspired. And that there, in a person, was the design brief for the new Edward Eager Centre. Sorry, didn't expect that. Our staff now deliver services in a building that communicates to the people who we serve there a message that's consistent with the message that they do. You matter, you're important, you're valuable, you're worth it. And there's more. We've always worked at the pointy end of homelessness. We've always served in that space. And with a new building that's fresh and upmarket, we continue to work, continue to serve at the pointy end. We haven't done all this to work with a different group of people. We've done all this to work more effectively with the same group of people we've always served. Another gentleman had been staying with us for just over a month. When he was offered accommodation at Edward Eager, he declined it at first. He'd stayed there 20 years earlier, and he said he wouldn't go back. Someone told him it was new, so he gave it a go. He took real pride in his room. Last week he moved into one of our transitional properties managed by Wesley Community Housing, and we'll continue to support him in his new setting. A lady who'd been staying with us since June had been in Australia for 9 years, but had become estranged and lonely and too afraid to live by herself in Australia. But she said she felt safe and supported at the new Edward Eager Centre and that she wanted to stay there long term. Last week we assisted her to return to Egypt, where family who loved her waited for her, and where she will now live. Last week, congregation activities resumed at the Edward Eager Centre. They'd been outside all this time because of COVID. On Saturday, the first service in the new Edward Eager Centre occurred, and during the week prior, people from the congregation were able to visit inside the building pretty much for the first time since we returned. And if not the first, one of the first guests to step in was a former resident of the old Edward Eager Lodge. He now lives in a Wesley retirement village. Between Edward Eager and there, he lived in our transitional housing managed by Wesley Community Housing before becoming homeless. His sons receive services from Wesley Disability Services. He receives chaplaincy from Wesley Congregational Life. He attends services. He received wellbeing support from Wesley Life Force. And through decades of life circumstances, he's connected with Wesley Mission. it seems like just about all of Wesley Mission. And more or less, Wesley Mission was there when he needed support to care for his 2 disabled boys. Wesley Mission was there when his 2 boys sadly passed away in their teens. Wesley Mission was there when things unravelled and he became homeless with literally nowhere to stay. Wesley Mission supported him with accommodation and stability and pastoral care. And now Wesley Mission will support him in his own place within one of our retirement villages, with ongoing tenancy and pastoral support from the teams already supporting him for as long as he wants it or needs it. When staff gathered here for training just prior to moving back into the Edward Eger Centre, with the help of Wesley Marketing, we had some blankets branded with Wesley Mission and given to everybody. A bit warm and fuzzy, but it was intended to be kind of an object lesson, that being essentially between our building and our services and the warmth and care of our interactions. We want the people we serve at the Edward Eger Centre to experience Wesley Mission as a warm blanket. On the same day, we received an envelope full of handwritten cards from a member of the Wesley Mission congregation, each unique, enough for everyone. Maybe there was one to spare. So the blanket, encouraging us to provide a service that wraps warmly around the vulnerable people we serve, was accompanied by cards encouraging us that Wesley Mission has wrapped itself warmly around us also. And by extension, Psalm 91:4, he shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. We're very proud of the new building and very grateful, humbled, and very mindful that it vacuumed the energy and resources of Wesley Mission for a very good while, and very mindful now of the responsibility to provide services at the Edward Eger Centre that honour that, and of course that honour the people who we serve there and who worship there. And we believe it builds upon, not tramples upon, the faithful work of decades prior, and we want to make sure that we honour that too. So passing on and genuinely sharing the same gratitude as a gentleman in a wheelchair. Thank you to all of Wesley Mission and all its supporters and all of its donors. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Rob is a blessing to those of us who know him, and more importantly, he is a blessing to the people that go to Edward Eger Centre. Thank you, Rob. Wesley Mission, as you all have, spent a lot of the last year dealing with COVID. I am not going to drag you through that experience except to say that it was hard, it was difficult. We had a number of staff who got COVID, and that is a difficult experience. We have staff who were separated from loved ones and families, and that was difficult. But I would say Wesley Mission came through that better than most, and much better than we could have. So I don't want to diminish that, but I'm happy to take, and then there'll be a time of questions just after this. I'm happy to take any questions about our COVID responses that you might have. I do want to reflect on our people, Rob being a shining example. My sense is that our staff felt supported by Wesley Mission through that last year. Many of our staff have family and loved ones that work in other organisations, and I do think our staff found Wesley Mission's response and love and support, Rick mentioned the chaplains, really helpful in that time. One of the things we had last year was a wellbeing officer, Horatio, who did a wonderful job just walking alongside our staff and helping us to think about the wellbeing of our staff. Stu supported wellbeing leave that we made available for staff to try and encourage people to get a break during COVID. We did hear earlier today, though, from a staff member in our disability team who worked 12 weeks straight, so we didn't quite get it right, but we tried. All of those words can also be reflected in numbers in our organisational staff retention. The average for our sector is 79%. We benchmark these things, and ours is 82.5% over that last 12 months, and continuing into the current year, though that's out of scope for this talk. But so I'm just really pleased that our staff stuck by us and the people that we want to help during that last year. It was a hard one. We did make a few changes in some of our teams and some of our structures. We brought together, for instance, our fundraising team with our advocacy work and our marketing team and lifted that up. And it's really exciting to see those three groups working together and working really closely with Stu as we seek to be a voicier, I don't know if that's a word, a voicier organisation, and one that speaks our values and our heart into the world around us. I also want to call out our hospital team, who did some really hard yards over the last 12 months, dealing with some cultural issues and dealing with some medical professionals who are quite opinionated sometimes. I still have a vivid memory of us consulting with all of our doctors at our Kogarah Hospital and them crying poor and demanding more from us and having a big whinge, and then as we left, one of them zooming out of the car park with the soft top down in his BMW and zooming off. And anyway, just one of those little disconnects that you get. So I do want to pay credit to the hospital team for the hard yards there. Thinking about the work that we do during the year, you can see many of it in the report, and I do encourage you to turn to that. You can test the veracity of everything I'm about to say, because I'm going to give page number references. So we've mentioned the work in Clarence Valley up in far north, which we've taken on and grown. It's something that happened during COVID, and excellent work to that team. We've had disability group homes. David Canning's mentioned those that have expanded and rolled out. Page 16 for those. Our out-of-school hours work has expanded further in Western Sydney. Turn to page 18 to read about that. Our Edward Eger Centre, as you've just seen, is opened, and you can see that on page 28. I also want to point out our training team, our Smart and Skilled training team, who during the year were recognised by the state government as a high-performing provider. You can see that on page 40. One of the reasons that they essentially promoted us into that category is our work with disadvantaged students. Across all of the training providers in New South Wales, the average rate of retention of the most disadvantaged cohort through their training is 48%. At Wesley Mission, it's 68%. Now that, for me, is a real credit to that team and, if you like, an indication of where our heart is and where we focus our work. Plenty more things that we did, and you can read about them in that report. Sneak preview for next year, we will be talking to you about a program called Escaping Violence, where we're helping women primarily escape from domestic violence situations. Started this year, so just sneak preview, wait 12 months. Our Life Force work and our Mums and Kids Matter work, which you can read about, Life Force page 37, Mums and Kids Matter page 19, are both up for tender this year. So I bring that to your attention for your prayer, please. Those are amazing services, and mostly our work rolls on, but sometimes government goes to an open tender process, and so both of those services we expect to go into an open tender process in the next 12 months, so please pray for them. In summary, from an operations perspective of that year, congregational life, and I've heard them use this word twice, experienced themselves as being agile during the year, and I'm jealous from a service delivery perspective. From the work, we long for more agility, and they are a shining example for us. So we seek that path. Other people I spoke to talked about experiencing last year, in spite of COVID, as a year of green shoots, which I have some affinity with. For me personally, what I experienced last year as a year where doors opened. More than 18 years of observed Wesley Mission years, last year lots and lots of doors seemed to open for us. They continue to open for us, and praise God for that. And I'm about to flick now to the next part of our agenda, which is a question and answer session with the executive leadership team. So I'm just going to segue to that group by saying that's our challenge for the year ahead. We've got open doors. Which ones do we go through? How do we take our staff through them, and how do we do that well? Because we have an abundance of richness that we can pursue if we have the skills and appetite for it. So let me invite my executive leadership team colleagues up, and we'll take questions and answers.
David's with us online as well, so just to acknowledge that. So for those of you who've not, so the executive leadership team includes our General Counsel and Company Secretary, Catherine King, Rick Dacey, Senior Minister of Wesley Congregational Life, Chris England, Chief Operating Officer, and David Cannings, who's online, who's our Chief Financial Officer. But I think most of you in the room know who we are, so I don't know why I just did that. Because it just feels formal. I've got a tie on, so that's what you do. So questions, and so this could last for a minute. This could last for 5 minutes. It's really any questions about the year. So we're really focusing, as I said, on the year that concluded June 30, 2021. Any questions about anything you've heard or anything in the report that you've seen or anything else that's relevant? Going once. Mark Northern, a member of the board.
I don't have a question. Oh, I don't.
Yes, you are. You are going to use the microphone.
Don't argue with Elizabeth.
Okay.
I nearly took it. No question, just really a comment to congratulate all of you. How inspiring it is to be part of this organisation. I'm relatively new, maybe 3 or 4 years around, but I'm so proud to wear my new Wesley Mission polo shirt around town, and people come up to me and ask me, I'm just going to have to get some advice from Chris as to where to refer them when they come to me, but it's really proud to be part of such an organisation. Congratulations, and I know we're going to go from strength to strength into the future. Well done.
Thank you. With that, I think it'd be worthwhile acknowledging, rather appropriate to acknowledge the members of the board who are present with us. Our chair of the board is an apology for today. He's on leave at the present time, and Bernard, one of our deputy chairs and chairs of one of our committees, Bernard Burmo, is going to just make some closing remarks in just a moment. But if I could just ask each of them to stand in turn. Dr. Keith Suter, how many years involvement with Wesley Mission, Keith?
1976 I started, so almost half a century.
There we go. Yeah. So Mark Northern, who commenced on the board in 2017. Sam Donnelly, one of our newest members, who started this year. Tracy Morgan and Jill Pretty. And is Tara here? I don't think she was able to make it. So Tara Reid and also Michael Anderson are other members of the board. I'm a member of the board as CEO. So we're so appreciative of, as an executive leadership team as a whole, of Wesley Mission staff for an incredibly supportive, visionary board who back us in. And we're very grateful. Would you honour them with me? And with that, unless there's going once, twice, 3 times, done. Okay. So I'm going to invite Bernard to come forward, who I didn't get to stand because you're about to see him now.
Thank you, everyone. Right at the end of the day, and what a day it's been, I sort of got here a bit earlier and accidentally sort of came in on your senior management team meeting earlier, but I was very impressed with what I saw. Wow, I woke up this morning or yesterday morning, I said, wow, it's December again. Can you believe it? You know? How did that happen? If you're a Christmas person, as most of you I take it are, it's time to get out the Christmas tree. I went and got mine yesterday. To get prepared to welcome your family and friends. We have people that invade us from all over, if they can get out of Queensland. It looks like they will this year. And to party, and we also will regret not ordering all of our shopping about 2 or 3 months ago. So I know where most of you will be going later on. It's also a time of year when we start to become more contemplative, about life's big questions. We joyfully prepare to celebrate the birth of Jesus, those many years ago. We reflect on the year that has been, as we've been doing today. It's great to celebrate the achievements as well as recognise the challenges of the past year. And it's really good and get ready to do all the good we can to all those people in the new year. It's been a significant one for Wesley Mission. Those who have spoken before me have outlined some of the key achievements and challenges of the year. And as Stu and Chris were saying, that the annual report is covered with those stories, so I'm not going to go over those again. But on behalf of Wesley Mission, I just wanted to, or the board, I wanted to make some observations. As you're aware, as Stu mentioned, Michael Anderson, the chair, isn't here today. He's up the coast somewhere. I think he's probably not at that beach without the mobile phone. He should have been having a bit of leave and holiday with his family. And Michael would not let me say this if he was here, but I just want to say it anyway. Having been on the board and watched Michael perform, I must admit he is one of the best chairs and most committed chairs I've seen and ever worked with. He's an amazing person, and really it's in his mind in terms of his competence and how he communicates, and he gives everybody an opportunity to talk and contribute, working us all the way towards a decision. But at the same time, it's in his heart as well, and you can see that. He really believes in the mission of the organisation. He sends his apologies. First observation I wanted to talk about was the transition to a new CEO and Superintendent. And as was mentioned, Stu and Sue arrived about a year ago in Sydney, and we welcomed them. And then he took up his appointment at the beginning of this year. And I think that everybody has provided a great welcome to Stu, and he's really taken up the reins, and I think we could really call him one of us now. He's no longer that Queenslander, that guy from up north. And I would also like to acknowledge, while I'm talking about that transition, how important the support that's been provided by Stu's executive assistant, Margaret Griffiths, in doing that. The executive assistant, you find out, is the most important person in the organisation. So thank you, Margaret. I don't know if she's in the room. She's probably outside, I think. So Stu's really got into the saddle and has provided some exceptional leadership already. One of the scariest things for a board is choosing a new CEO. And a lot of people say it's the most important thing. And I'm really glad we've landed on Stu. It's a real answer for prayer. The other observation I wanted to make or share is the commitment of people to provide compassionate and quality care within a safe, mission-based organisational culture. That is for the staff who work here, for all of us, for volunteers, the congregation members, and the broad spectrum of people and communities that we provide services to. One example that stuck in my mind was earlier this year I was invited to join Chris England, Catherine King and Nigel Lindsay, there he is, in a meeting between the Office of the Children's Guardian and Wesley Mission as part of the out-of-home care accreditation process. And I recall that at one point in the meeting, which I thought was perfect, the out-of-home care team was saying how important it was for organisations like Wesley Mission to be engaged with the sector. And they said, one of the key ways of doing that was through the PEAK organisation, the Association of Child Welfare Organisations or Agencies. And one of the auditors then asked us, if we had any connection or engagement with ACWA. And they were surprised, I think. There was a bit of a silence there when Nigel told him that he was actually the chair of the board of ACWA. And I thought, we were right there in the middle of things, so exceptional. Later, Chris read to the board Nigel's report on the auditor's comments on the exit interview. They provide you with feedback as they're leaving. And they stated that Wesley's key strengths include, and I'll just quote a few things here, it's clear that wherever they went, they were impressed at the extremely dedicated child protection focus of the agency. Across the board, on all standards, there was a high degree of compliance. Most sites had examples they considered best practice, and they shared a few examples. They said that standard 22 and 23 they believe were totally covered off. And if you're wondering what they are, they relate to governance and strategic planning standards. And they also said that the intensive therapeutic houses were impressive, particularly the quality of them and how home-like they were, while still being set up to meet the needs of the children. And as I think somebody said earlier, some of the children in those homes are really the most vulnerable people. You know, they really need a very high level of care and support, and I think Grace and her team provide that together with Nigel. I was, later on, I was also deeply touched as Chris was reading this affirmation that came back from the team. As he read the feedback from the Office of the Children's Guardian to the board, I saw tears well up in his eyes, a bit like we saw just a few moments ago. And I think he was deeply moved. And, you know, we're all deeply moved as a result as well. And I think that's what makes, one of the things that makes Wesley's culture so special. People not only have a high degree of professional competence, but also a deep level of personal commitment to the support we provide to some of the most vulnerable people in the community. And that's when the penny dropped with what Stu was talking about, which was about having a soft heart, sharp minds, hard feet and open hands. I must admit, when he first mentioned that, I wasn't too sure what he was talking about. But it sort of sunk in. I've got it now, so thanks. Later, we were advised that we got the maximum 5 years accreditation, so that's fantastic. And we've been through a few other accreditations in aged care in different areas as well. So their hard work demands a high degree of competence and commitment and dedication to achieve those results. So well done. We provide a wide range of quality services to a whole gamut of people across society, and most of those people are very vulnerable. As a mission, we truly do all the good we can in a complex and ever-changing and demanding environment, and it's been a real baptism for you, Stu. The last year has been a doozy. However, all organisations, including Wesley Mission, that provide services to very vulnerable people must not become complacent because we receive great feedback. We want to take that great feedback on and affirm the people that are doing that. That's really important. But we mustn't become complacent. It's also, we need to be vigilant that our culture continues to allow the sharing of bad news. You know, the mistakes we make, the times we stuff up. Because every organisation is going to do that. You know, we're all human beings. Circumstances sometimes go out of our control. Sometimes we're thrown in the deep end like we were with COVID, and we're going to make mistakes. So it's really important to share the bad news as well as the good, so that information is cascaded appropriately through the organisation and that any issues can be dealt with in a timely way. It's the only way we can continuously improve. To support this accountability and transparency, I'm pleased to advise that the organisation is continuously improving our risk management, quality assurance and incident reporting systems. And that at the moment, I think Catherine's involved in the development of a major project in that area. The board, together with management, has also developed a statement of its risk appetite to guide management and ensure we continue to allocate resources, manage environmental complexity and meet changing needs. So getting me up here as the chair of the Quality and Risk Committee, I would have to mention risk appetite. I'd like to particularly thank Catherine, who I've worked closely with on the risk committee, Phil Grindley, who's an exceptional head of risk, and Perminda Bella, the QA lead, who's also developed clinical governance systems for the organisations. They've been really exceptional, and together with those resources, I'm sure the organisation will embrace that going forward. Now, just to finish up, I'd like to congratulate all of you for all that you have achieved during the year, which we've discussed and covered earlier today. I'm honoured to be part of Wesley Mission community. Relationships are at the heart of both community services and the congregation, and I believe we will continue to serve more people and have greater impact as we go forward. We'll continue to build bridges to other parts of the community, continue to open those doors, look for the common ground, provide services and support to people experiencing disadvantage, and working for the common good of the whole community. I'd like to conclude with a quote from one of my favourites, George Bernard Shaw, because it provides inspiration to strive for better things, to be truly community-minded, and to continue to point out lives like a compass to the true north, which for us is to remain faithful to Jesus' mission in word and deed and prayer. This is the true joy of my life, being used for a purpose recognised as a mighty one. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as I live, it is my privilege to do whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I love. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I've got a hold of for the moment, and I want to make sure that it burns as brightly as possible before handing it on to the future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard, and thank you again to our board who have provided exemplary leadership. Again, I mean, it's been a challenging season for those of us who are staff, who are leading congregations in Wesley Mission. It's been challenging for our Mission Council and also for our board to exercise the appropriate level and type of governance that these uncertain and ever-changing times have required, and we have been exceptionally well served by them. It's now for me to make closing comments, and my closing comments are we are almost at the end. So with that, I'm going to invite our lead chaplain, who heads up our chaplaincy team and does, as has been recognised here already. Our chaplains have done an extraordinary job over the last 18 months, but the 12 months that we're speaking about here, time and time again, I hear from our team leaders the contribution our chaplains make to our frontline staff and others who are serving in some of the most challenging of circumstances, and we're incredibly grateful for the support they provide. But with that, I'm going to invite Joe Garrett to come forward and to close us in prayer.
Thanks, Stu. And can I just say, it is an honour and a privilege to do what we do every day. I thank God for the team, and I thank you for the opportunity to serve you guys. But let's just pray. God, I thank you for your goodness. God, I thank you for your faithfulness. Lord, I thank you that we've had time this afternoon to reflect on your goodness and your kindness to us. And I thank you, Lord, for the amazing opportunity that each of us has, Lord, to be your hands and feet. Lord, I thank you for every client, for every staff member, for every congregation member, for every person connected to Wesley Mission. And I pray today that, God, you'll bless them. Lord, I pray you'll bless their family. Lord, I thank you that we've had time to just rejoice in your faithfulness and your goodness. Lord, I thank you for the work of Edward Eager Centre. Lord, I thank you that your hand's been upon that project. And Lord, I thank you that your hand has guided us this past year. And Lord, I pray as we go about our day to day, Lord, as we travel home, that God, your mercy will be with us. And Lord, we get excited for this next year, for the opportunities, Father, to love on people. And I thank you that you've called each one of us for such a time as this to serve. In your precious name I pray. Amen. Amen. Amen.
So folks, including those of us who have been joining with us online and persisting in that, thank you so much for joining us. It's a privilege that you've been able to do so. To those of us in the room, those of you online, can I encourage you to go to the website, download the digital copy, or next time you're in here at Wesley Mission to pick up a hard copy of the report. And to everybody, online or here in the room, you don't need the latest John Grisham, Michael Connolly, or whatever it is that you like to read. You have your reading material for the next, well, few nights at least. No, seriously, can I encourage you to read it? Read it with gratitude. Read it with joy. Read it with expectation, because what you have there in the stories, in the statistics, in the reports, is a story of lives being changed and communities being transformed. And we should all celebrate that and look forward to the future with a sense of expectation and anticipation. So please read it. Thank you.